This episode of the Blue Collar Real Estate Podcast brought to you by Stacy Mayo and the Scott Miller team at Ruoff Mortgage. Whether you're buying new or refinancing, Ruoff has a solution for you.
And here we are, another Friday at 5. It's Greg and Ryan for Blue Collar Real Estate. What is going on, everybody? So we are excited to get started this week. But before we do that, we again want to thank Stacy Mayo and the Scott Miller team at Ruoff Mortgage for everything they do for this show. It's super awesome. And if you need to refinance your loan, hurry up and call her right now. Her number was on the screen a minute ago. And if you're listening to us, hop on YouTube real quick. But Greg, you and I are going to continue our series, and we're going to talk about carpentry work this week, right? We're going to dive into something like you're uber passionate about. Like last week, you let me run with roofing a little bit. But this week, we're going to dive into something you totally geek out about. It's something you absolutely love, and I've seen some of the work you do, and it's extraordinary. So I'm excited to dive into the trades of carpentry and what all exists, what opportunities are available for people out there, and we're even going to talk about tools. I'm kind of excited about that part. So
yeah, I initially thought we would do a 3-part on carpentry, 3 different episodes.
But you had told me when we were at our at the blue collar office last week, and
we
were going to talk
yeah.
at our headquarters last week, and you told me last week that when I was geeked out about talking about roofing, you're like, let's just hit the pause button here a little bit. We don't need to go too deep here. We don't need to talk about shingles. So I felt like we had to do that a little bit with carpentry with you this week, right?
Absolutely. And before we get in the carpentry thing, there's something important I want to talk about. Because this is airing live on October 30th.
Yeah.
But it'll be on YouTube and the other podcast formats next week, which is November.
Next, yep.
November is Men's Health Month.
It is Men's Health Month. So you and I have talked about this a lot, not to steal your thunder, and I'm not going to, but go ahead and continue, please.
Thunder, that's what I called the doctor.
Right.
No, so
that was not comfortable, I'm sure.
No. As some of you may or may not know, I'm 50. Now, just sharing my age doesn't matter, but it does matter in the fact that men my age, there's certain procedures we need to get done.
Yeah, that's actually the truth. And this is not the topic of our show today, but we also felt it's important because Greg and I both went through this in the last couple of weeks. And let's just talk about some uncomfortable stuff for men that are, in their 40s, 50s, hell, even 30s in some cases. And what are some things that need to happen? Because I've had a couple scares. I've actually lost some friends to what we're going to talk about next. So dive into it if you don't mind.
Yeah, so the biggest thing when you're 50 is to get a prostate exam, a digital. Didn't mean to hold that up. And digital doesn't mean on TV. No, it means digit. Anyway, find a doctor with small hands. The other thing is a colonoscopy.
Yeah, and that's a big one. That's one I had done 3 years ago. I had lost a friend about 4 years ago prior, to colon cancer, and he was 36 at the time. I was 37 at the time, and it was I'm sorry, I was 35 or 36. I don't know. I don't even know how old I am, actually. I forget. I quit keeping track, actually. But nevertheless, it was what in the world just happened here? This is not supposed to happen to somebody in their 30s. And then subsequently, a couple years after that, I lost a friend who was 43 to the exact same thing. And I'm like, this is a problem. This is a real issue for men. And I feel it's something that doesn't get talked about at all.
No, and because it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Now, the actual procedure itself, they give you some propofol, they put a GoPro on a garden hose, do their thing.
And you wake up a few hours later and you're sort of okay, but not really.
Right. I was happy that Dr. Reedy explained to me right before I went under that she was going to carefully examine all 5 feet of my colon. I'm like, thanks, Doc. And I had it done. Dr. Reedy and her whole staff, they're just amazing people. The hard part's the prep, right? Yeah. The day before. You drink this stuff that they tell you to drink, and then you have atomic diarrhea for about 10 hours.
You also lose a little weight in that, so It's a great weight loss program for...
By the end of the night, what's coming out of you is literally certified spring water. I mean, it's an uncomfortable experience, but you do it, and you go get checked out. And now at 50, now I'm good to get checked out again at 55.
Yeah, and that's just something that I am. It's important to me. Again, having lost a couple of people that I knew relatively well, it's terrible, and you don't want to see that happen to anybody. But it's also preventable if you go in and you get checked out. And that's the biggest thing is go in and if you're 35 plus, go in and get checked out. Go get a colonoscopy. Go get this stuff early because. I don't know if you know this, but I don't exactly eat the most healthy. I mean, I drink a lot of energy drinks. I eat a lot of, I had 2 meals today with gas station food. So it's so nevertheless, it's most people, and I don't mean to lump this all into one pile, but most people don't take care of themselves the way they probably should, which leads to a lot of additional challenges. So go get checked out. Right. And take care of yourself. And there's some minor things that you can do to improve your diet, et cetera. But nevertheless, that's not what we're here to talk about today. But you and I both went through this in the last couple of weeks. We both feel it's immensely important for men. Go do this. Please go do this, because you don't want to be one of those guys that is dealing with this, especially if you have kids and young ones and all that stuff. So
now that we've done that, we'll get off our public service announcement. What would you like to talk about?
Well, I'm a big fan of pine. I don't know why, because that was the first one that came to mind, and we used that on some gutter boards last week.
You used pine on gutter boards?
That's what they
Did
told
you
me.
prime all 6 sides?
It was like pre-primed, like rough sawn. Yeah.
Okay, good. We're safe. So carpentry, right?
Yeah.
I freaking love carpentry.
I know you do. Like
Jason,
you're giddy right now.
Can you put that first pick up?
All right. So again, if you are not on YouTube, I encourage you to hop over to YouTube so you can actually see what we're going to talk about next, or just keep listening. And here we go.
So it's grainy, but it's a copy of a copy from an actual camera. Circa 1983. That's me on the left.
Heck yeah.
Hold my hammer up. That's my brother.
He's busy.
Going like, why is Greg my brother? But when I was a kid, we added on to our house. And my mom GC'd the entire project. And when I say added on, we added on 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a family room, 2 stories.
Built a new house, basically.
Right, and attached it to a little one. My mom GC'd it because she's BA. But that was my first experience of the trades. And I'm happy.
Yeah, I can tell. Like, there's a smile. Like, you look like Conan the Barbarian, only a little bit smaller. Like, ready to rock and roll here. You're excited about what you're doing. Heck yeah.
Dude, and the thing is, the framer that did the framing, I'd been running their coffee that day and whatever, and I came out with my little canvas apron on, which you can see, and my little 16-ounce hammer. And I was running their coffee, and I came out dressed up, and I said, can I help? Now, I'm like a 12-year-old kid.
Yeah.
He could have very easily went, hey, buddy, we're trying to work. Instead, he said, well, sure. Do you know how to lay out a wall? What's that mean? Well, let me show you. I spent the rest of the day working with this guy.
That's awesome. I've never heard that story.
Oh, it was so fun.
You and I have had beers how many times? I've never heard this story. So let's walk through that, because this is what, like, my son's 14 right now, right?
Yeah.
And nobody likes to try any new things. But, you know, like, I got into the trades industry by accident. I, like, fell into the roofing industry, and I loved it. Literally loved it. I enjoy it. It's fun. And that's what just happened here. Like, you tried something new, and it, like, literally changed your life.
Yeah. Yeah, I loved it. I love the smells. I love the sounds. Within a year or so, my brother and I are finished watching Saturday morning cartoons in that family room down there to the right where the TV ended up being. And we were looking for something else to watch. We came across a show called This Old House. Mm-hmm. This is like 1983, right? And I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the way they explain the trades, the way they do their houses. It was so informative, and it made me want to be that.
So let me ask you this. Like, let's go off the script here for a minute, but let me just kind of talk to you about this, because again, I so feel that if you've never done this type of work, go try it once or twice, because you might actually enjoy it.
Yep.
It's truly something that, until you do it once or twice, and especially if you can do it with somebody that's knowledgeable, like, you know, you had the opportunity to learn from somebody that had done this well, obviously. It's fun. It can be fun. It's not fun all the time. I had a really bad day today, but it was stupid stuff. I didn't order enough parts. But but that happens sometimes. So,
right.
But like, tell me about that. Like, what was that first day like, and what was it going through your mind that's like, oh my gosh, I actually really enjoy this?
I think one of the biggest things about it, other than sort of the just camaraderie of the guys and like I said, the smells, it doesn't like smelling fresh cut wood. But when we got done, and I hung out with them the rest of the afternoon. I was probably with them 3 or 4 hours. When we got done, I could see a wall standing where there hadn't been a wall.
Yeah.
And that feeling inside of a 12-year-old kid of, well, let's be honest, I still get that feeling, but I made that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a part of building that. I don't dig roofing.
Yeah.
I can sell roofing, but I'm not roofing. I don't like it. You saw when I was walking on my roof with you the other day, and I live in a ranch.
One of these days, I will find this video of Greg and I on the very first roof that he and I were on back in, what was that, June or May or June or something like that. This is so awesome. But here's the thing, is like, I'm laughing at you, but that was also me. My first roof that I went on by myself, oh my gosh, it was like hideously embarrassing at this point if I go back and look at it. Hopefully there's no YouTube videos out there.
If there is, I'll find it. But I just loved it. I mean, look at me. I'm having a great time.
Yep. And your brother is not having as good of a time, it doesn't look like.
Well, my brother was probably tired of me being such a dork. But in OSHA, by the way. I'm on a landing, a 4 or 5 foot landing with that ladder and no rail. But anyway, whatever. So that's kind of how I got into it. This old house certainly sparked it and kept that fire going. And
let's kind of like dive into like what were some of those things that were sparked, because again, as you mentioned, this could literally be a 3-part series here when we're talking about carpentry, but let's kind of like skim the surface a little bit and talk about what are some of the different types of things. So you've built everything from tables to cabinets. You've built walls, obviously. You've done a ton. We just got done doing a couple remodels. You're building a couple of houses right now with some investors. You've got all this stuff going on. So you're in all these different facets. But let's kind of dive into a couple of the different types of specific trades and opportunities that exist within the industry here.
All right, let's start, and thank you for roping me back in. Let's start with rough framing. Mm-hmm. Jason, if you can bring that next picture up.
So rough framing.
Just that.
Is literally, so if you're not on YouTube, and you should be if you are or are not, but rough framing is literally like you're building a house. Like you've got sticks, you've got lumber, you're building a house out of just nothing, right?
It's literally the skeleton of a building.
So that to me is intimidating as heck, but I've also met a lot of these framers that do this work, and it's really just following some plans. Like it's reading the instruction book that comes in the IKEA package, right? Like it's not the most complex thing, or it could be. IKEA is sometimes hard, but it's reading a blueprint, right?
Right. It once you learn how to do it and you learn the steps in the right order, you can do this fairly easily. The rough framing is a little bit different. Another thing in rough carpentry is also decks would be.
Yeah.
In the next picture, Jason. So that's a deck we did. Oh, the date's on it. 12 years ago. Most of that's rough framing, except for the decking and these vertical skirt boards. But you look at all the different things we got going on here. We got railing systems, we got stairs, 2 sets, and that's all what I would consider rough framing.
And so, the deck industry, building decks, who doesn't enjoy spending time in the outdoors? Outdoor living space, Greg, you and I are still in real estate. We do a ton of real estate. How many clients enjoy and appreciate outdoor living spaces? Because it's an amazing wow factor, and so many people do spend time out there that knowing how to do this and knowing how to provide this service to people. Heck, you can make $5,000 a week, no problem at all, if you know what you're doing and you're building decks for the right people. It's an incredibly profitable business if you know what you're doing.
You said if you know what you're doing. I got a quick funny anecdote. This guy's house, you can tell there's 2 layers there and a pergola and all these different things we did. The guy next door to this side came over. It took us 7 days to do that, me and my crew. This guy next door kept coming over and talking to me. So we get done, he asked me for a bid. But much smaller deck than this. But I give him a bid. He tells me, man, I got somebody that can do it for X number of dollars less. Can you match his price? I said, nope. Well, can you come down a little bit? No, I'm sorry, I can't. The price I gave you is the price it'll cost to have me build that.
Yep.
So the other guy was like, I don't know, $2 or $3 grand less than me on an $8,000 deck. Like that's considerable.
That's considerable, yeah.
So this guy, his name's John. I'm a friend. He's a friend of mine. The guy gets his deck done next door. I'm over at John's house at a party, and he's like, dude, come out back here. Let me show you. And we walk to the backyard. I look up at the house at this guy's deck that didn't want to pay me. After he watched me build one,
yeah.
His deck was dying off to the side like that. And John said, how does that happen? I said, well, easy. The guy walked around with the tape measure and measured up, marked a line on his post for the ledger board or the band board.
Without considering the height of the
From the ground.
Oh, wow.
Not setting a level line.
Yeah.
And then I got on top of it, and it was like a rhombus. I'm like, what the hell happened here? So then the homeowner asked me, how much will it cost to fix it? And I said, well, it'll be $2 grand for me to demo what's there, and then $8 grand for me to build you a deck.
The same deck, yeah.
Right. So there's something to it, right?
There is. It's knowing what you're doing, and it simply is a skill. It's something that can be learned by anybody who chooses to learn this skill. And quite frankly, you could probably learn this skill in 2 or 3 years and know how to build any type of deck out there.
Absolutely.
Fair?
So the next thing I want to get into is, so we got rough framing and the kind of decks and outdoor structures. I want to talk about trim carpentry.
I know you love this.
Now, I did not do this, but if you look, and if you're not on YouTube, get on YouTube and look at the detail, all the different pieces that went in to make this dome, what we're seeing right here. We got corbels, we got bed molding here, we got the raised panels here.
It's impressive.
It to me, that's an artist.
I agree.
As much as a sculptor or a painter or anything else, that cat that did that, that's an artist.
To be able to do that with wood, and granted, wood comes from like literally straight trees, right? And we've got arches, we've got curves, we've got this amazingly beautiful architecture here that's built by somebody who built it out of, what were once trees, literally.
Right.
And it's amazingly beautiful, and it truly is art. When you see somebody that knows how to do carpentry, I'm not one of those people. I mean, I'm not bad at like cutting trim and doing things like that, and it's okay. But man, it's not what we're looking at right here. This is a like fine-tuned skill that somebody has learned over maybe a couple decades, and it's beautiful. And guess what? This did not cost $5,000.
No. And, in a couple years, you can be a good framer.
Mm-hmm.
And then you may find, hey, I like the more detailed stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the cat that did this, or the lady, I don't know who it was, whoever did this, they've been working at their craft for a long time.
Yeah.
This is like expert level stuff. And it's so beautiful, and it's so fun. We did a house, me and my buddy Mead, kitchen remodel in the Meridian Kessler area, and we had to match the new trim and what we were doing to the trim that was 140 years old.
Oh, wow.
And we did all these mock-ups, and there were 3 or 4 different pieces of poplar that we had to make come together and fit. And when we got done, it looked right. It was challenging, sometimes stressful, because you're like, I don't think I can. But it was awesome when we got done. Another area of carpentry that's a bit of a specialty area is cabinet building.
Cabinet building is extraordinary. I mean, you can go buy basic cheap cabinets at Lowe's or any other place like that, but building awesome custom cabinets, oh my gosh. I mean, I know so many people that have spent uber thousands of dollars on cabinetry because it's exceptional, it's exquisite, and it's something that you can 100% tell the difference in custom-made cabinets versus the ones you buy off the shelf at Lowe's. Yeah. I mean, it is just not even. I've shown thousands and thousands of homes in my life, and you can 100% tell the difference because it's beautiful versus like, it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I built uppers and lowers, all maple boxes, maple fronts, maple doors, one time.
Yeah.
You find out pretty quick if you don't have a dedicated cabinet shop set up.
You're going to want one. You're going to want one.
You're going to wish you had one really bad.
But nevertheless, it's such an amazing opportunity for people out there. And again, that's what I want to really focus on, with this episode is just the opportunities that exist within the trades industry. And we're talking something that you can learn in 3 years. 3 years, you can be building decks. You can be, a good, maybe not exceptional yet, but you can be a really good trim carpenter. You can be a, moderately decent, detail carpenter like what we're looking at here in the photo right here. And you can build cabinets, but it's taking the time to learn the skill. And like what you just said, when you were 12 years old, you find a mentor, you find somebody that's been there, that's done this, that can help you learn the trade a little bit more quickly. And oh my gosh, you can do amazing things super, super fast.
Oh yeah. And a lot of people start off in framing.
Mm-hmm.
When I turned 18 and graduated high school, that summer I worked for a framer. But then you find other things that interest you.
Yep.
And in some cities, like in Chicago, when I sold lumber up there years ago, there were companies that all they did was stairs. Now you might ask yourself, why? Stairs aren't that complicated. And then Jason's going to show us the next picture.
In which those stairs look like this might be from the Titanic.
It is, yeah.
This literally looks like that scene from like with Leo DiCaprio in Titanic. This is gorgeous.
Thank you, Jason. Yeah, and one of the reasons I picked these stairs is because they're so beautiful and there's so much going on. Even the detail up in the ceiling, it's just unbelievably amazing.
All right, so I got to hit the rewind button here a little bit. Maybe not necessarily the rewind button, but you never see this anymore, right? Like at least in the houses that I'm looking at, most houses I look at are like 300,000, 400,000, et cetera.
Yeah, we're not going to see it in those houses.
You don't see this. Like this is just absolutely exquisite artistry at its finest right here. And obviously this was a Titanic. I'm sure it looked beautiful in the bottom of the Atlantic right now. But nevertheless, it's exceptional. It's exceptional. So I have to ask a silly question. And again, if you're not on YouTube, you should. And this is not a YouTube commercial, but it basically is at this point. Like, what's it cost to hire somebody to like carve in the detail of something like this? Like, how do you even, number one, find this person? And number two, like, what's it cost me to build like a pillar right here that is carved out in such exquisite detail?
Well, first, let me start out and then shrink down. This whole stair system, I'm going to guess to be built today in a home would be somewhere in the neighborhood of $120,000.
Yeah.
For the stairs.
Yeah.
That one pillar, forget the little creepy naked person standing there with the fountain or light or whatever the hell they're doing. That pillar below, for someone to make that and hand carve it, that piece alone is probably $5,000 or $6,000.
$5,000 or $6,000, and took somebody how long to do that?
Probably a solid month.
Probably a solid month to make that happen.
Now, with stuff like that, when you're going that deep into a piece of wood, you can't work on it 8 hours a day.
No, I feel like that's a 3-hour project here, 2-hour time here, because you've got to be so mentally sharp because you can't go back and erase that mistake, right?
Right. There's that, and there's also, you got to factor in the moisture content of the wood.
No, I didn't even think of that.
As you dig it, let's say your slab of wood is 10 or 12 quarter thick, right? And you're starting to carve into it. You got to carve in, get a little deep, and then you got to let it rest.
Didn't know that.
Just like when you're planing, I got a bunch of roughs on poplar at home. I'm getting ready to make my wife a dining room table. And I'll plane it both sides till I get it about where I want it, and then I'll leave it sit for 2 days. Come back and plane it again. Let it kind of figure out what it wants to be, and then plane it back to what I want it. I'll do that 3 days in a row before I ever actually start joining wood together.
Oh, kidding. I did not know that. I didn't know wood needed to be treated that way. Like when I've laid floors, they're always like, hey, bring the floors inside, let it sit there for 3 or 4 days, and then then lay your floors, right? But I didn't know that was the case when you're like building stuff like that. That's actually super interesting.
Yeah, and if you don't, like right now, I'm making one of my clients that's closing next week a charcuterie board.
I don't even know what that is, but it sounds sophisticated.
I just learned how to say it, and I don't think I got it right. Jason, did I get that right?
Charcuterie?
I have no idea.
All right. So basically, it's a board that you put like meat and cheeses on. You serve it at parties.
Yeah.
My wife keeps making fun of me because I pronounce it wrong, but whatever. But it's cherry. It's live edge cherry. I planed it, and it's sitting there, and I'll plane it again tomorrow. Probably actually start cutting on it Monday or Tuesday. You see what I mean? Mm-hmm. You have to. And that's why you might, if you're a guy that makes that kind of thing, you might have 7 or 8 projects going on at once.
Right. That makes sense, though, because you've got this $5,000 project going on. You got 3 other ones going on at the same time because it's got to sit for a day or two. And obviously, you want to keep working.
And if you're the guy or gal that knows how to make this stair system, I guarantee whatever city you're in, you're making $250,000 a year.
Or substantially more. I mean, this is just something that, again, this person doesn't exist everywhere in the world, and there is such a shortage of people that know how to do any type of work like this anymore. I mean, that's literally why we're doing this series, is because there is such a shortage of people that want to do and get involved in the trades industries. But if you do, oh my gosh, the opportunities are literally endless if you show up on time, do what you say you're going to do, and get a little bit better every day. Otherwise, you're like everybody else.
And on that part, this is a recording. We say that every episode about every trade.
It's literally the truest thing of all time, though. I mean, it's just like the truth of business, right? Show up on time, do what you say you're going to do, and magic happens in your life. Weird, right?
I can't process it. But it's exactly right. Another specialty area I want to talk about is doors.
So I'm not familiar with doors. We are... This is not what Roofco does, but Roofco is right now building a couple decks for a gentleman who spent almost $12,000 on 3 doors. So I'm excited to learn about what makes a door cost about $4,000.
Well, the first thing is construction.
Right. So let's talk about this, because literally what I just said was somebody spent $12,000 on 3 doors.
Right.
So that means these doors were not the ones that you just bought at Lowe's that were off the shelf. There was something exquisitely special about these doors. So tell me about what it takes to build doors with margins like that.
Well, number one, if it's an exterior door especially, you can't just take a piece of wood and sand it and then make it the right thickness and put it in the hole. You just can't. There's stiles, there's rails, there's panels, right? All those pieces of wood have to be put together in a certain way. The panels, if you don't insert them, if they're too tight, if they're glued with the wrong kind of glue, they can start twisting and wanting to separate. If they're not tight enough, then you got slop and wiggle. It has to be the right kind of wood.
So there's a lot that goes into this, what you're saying.
There's so much. I looked at building a door once for a client in, not Broad Ripple.
Somewhere in Indianapolis.
Oh, it's over by Butler Tarkington. Anyway, because her door was a half round at the top, and it was original to the house, was 100 years old. She didn't think it could be fixed. I looked at the cost and process to build one. Long story short, I ended up spending a day and a half and just fixing it and save the original door, which is probably better. But I just be honest, that's over my head. I can't make you an exterior door right now. I could figure it out. I downloaded plans. Stacy's probably not watching this right now. I downloaded plans to build a 17-foot sailboat.
That's awesome.
That I'm thinking I might build in my garage.
I like that idea.
Jason, don't tell her. Nobody.
Support that idea.
Anyway.
Are you going to put that staircase in it?
I think you should. I think this would make Stacy happy, I feel. Like, I feel you could get away with the sailboat if you built this staircase.
Yeah.
Right?
It'd be hard to get a staircase like that on my boat.
Maybe half of it.
Maybe just a the little naked critter.
I thought you didn't like the naked guy.
But I'll put that on the front of the boat.
Oh, that makes sense.
With the light. That'd be hilarious. Anyway, the last sort of specialty area I want to talk about, and we can talk about, like in the Carpenters Union right now around the Indianapolis area, a lot of what they do anymore is steel studs and drywall because they're mostly commercial. I'm not discounting what they do. A good friend of mine's a union carpenter. I never liked steel studs and drywall. I've done it before, not my thing. So I'm not really talking about that a lot. But that is an opportunity.
Oh, my gosh. I mean, how many buildings? I mean, you drive around Indianapolis right now, how many buildings are under construction?
Like more than 5.
Like thousands, it feels like. You can't go a mile without finding a building under construction. So absolutely, again, another industry that exists for people out here right now. Again, we're not talking about that right now for this episode. But, oh my gosh, that's what just excites me to no end for anybody that, wants to get started doing some of this. So let's kind of talk about that a little bit. How does somebody get started?
But the last thing I want to talk about.
I'm sorry.
I know I said the last thing, that I got sidetracked. I'm having a squirrel kind of day. The last thing is furniture.
Okay.
And there's an example. Now, I showed this example not to show off. I made that table. That table is 9 foot long. I downloaded free plans online for it, and I actually followed them, which is weird for me. I also built a deck. But that table is made, because of their budget, I made it with all off-the-shelf lumber from Home Depot.
Nice.
Now, so I show that to say, it's not, like, I'm not Tom Silva. I'm not Norm Abram, right? I downloaded some free plans for the table that they wanted. I got the lumber at Lowe's. I assembled it, or cut it, put it together, planed it, stained it, finished it. They were excited. To me, furniture building, at this stage in my game, furniture building, if I could just build nothing but furniture, I would.
Heck yeah.
It's so much fun. And now these people have moved to Florida. My wife still is in contact with them. Tonight, right now, they may be sitting around that table eating dinner.
I know, that's cool. I love that
just
stuff.
fun.
But it goes back to something you said earlier, where you do a job, you see the result. Like you said, going back to the beginning of the show, you built a wall, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. I helped do this.
Yeah.
You get to see the the fruits of your labor, which is so awesome. At the end of the day, that's why one of the things I love about roofing is, you take a roof that looks like poo, and then 12 hours later, it looks awesome. That was not a cuss, was it?
No, but
I blinked you anyway.
We were all waiting for it. So, where do you get started?
I don't know. So you got to tell me about this on this side, because I feel like this is something that if you choose to want to learn how to do this, anybody could do this. Now, certainly there's people with, like Tom Silva, that have amazing skill at doing this. But at the end of the day, this is a skill that can be learned by anybody that wants to do it.
Right.
Period.
Now, shop class is a great place to start.
Why don't they do shop class anymore?
I don't know.
I love shop class. I built this trunk that's still in my parents' house in shop class. I'm sure they don't want it anymore, but they still have it, and they'll keep it until they're not here anymore.
Don't upset little Rai. That's what they called you, right?
That's not what they called me, actually. No, that is not what they called me.
I think that's what I'm calling you from now on.
I don't like that.
Okay, I'll move. We'll try something different. Friend of mine was named Ray, and for some reason I started calling him Rayford. It just sounded
sense.
Rayford. Hello, boy. Drove him nuts. But anyway, so shop class, if you can
find one.
Apprenticeships, which we kind of talked about.
Yep.
A lot of the apprenticeships are union, but it's not like a union carpenter. There's steel studs and drywall. There's union flooring companies where you go put hardwood flooring down and other kinds of flooring. There are union carpentry companies that, is that for me?
Yes.
That put in commercial doors. So there's those opportunities. There's also on-the-job training.
Yeah.
Dude, with all the building going on in the city, if you want to get into the trades, stop by a job site.
Literally show up on time every day, and you'll have a job.
Yeah, I stop by the job site, sober, not drunk or
That's also
stoned.
super important.
Ask for the foreman or the superintendent. Talk to him. Tell him you want to get in the trade. I guarantee if you do that 5 times, you'll have at least one job offer.
100%. Guaranteed.
And the on-the-job training is invaluable because you're going to be paired up with a guy or a gal who's been doing it 10, 20, 30 years, whatever. They're going to know all the tricks and be able to teach you all the tricks. You don't have to figure it out on your own.
You get taught the shortcuts immediately on day one. You get taught the shortcuts. It's like, who doesn't want to read the cliff notes for every test you took in high school, right? That's what working with a good an apprenticeship type program is. You work with a professional that's been doing this for 20 years, and oh my gosh, you hang out with them for a year, maybe 2 years, and all of a sudden you're a pro.
Yep.
You can go do what they did because they taught you all the tricks of the trade while you were hanging out with them and just getting paid to get an education.
And I know a lot of guys your age, my age, and older that would love to have someone eager to learn to teach.
Oh my gosh, I'm begging for that person right now for roofing right now because it's so needed. Like, I want somebody that's in their younger than me that wants to show up and work every day because there's just an abundance amount of opportunity. But it just blows me away that so few people want to do that.
And so let's talk about some of the requirements. Mm-hmm. So one of the biggest things is training, obviously. With carpentry, and different than some of the trades we've talked about heretofore, there are several tools used regularly in carpentry that can leave you short fingers.
Oh, that's not good.
For a simple trim job, like when we did that one at Speedway together a year ago, I had 4 or 5 power tools on the job that day.
Yeah.
Because some you got to rip lumber, you got to cut it, you got to be able to cut the angles, you got to put all these different things. So
yeah, there was 3 or 4 saws we were using, period.
Yeah. Let alone all the nail guns and all the other stuff. So there's a lot of tools you need, but it shouldn't be daunting. Because
it's not.
If you show up, all you need is a tape measure, a square, a hammer, and you'll get more as you go.
Do you feel, Greg, that somebody could get started doing this for maybe $500 worth of tools? Easily. Like, you go to Lowe's and you buy one of these like packages, and Lowe's, Home Depot, you pick your spot, but you buy a package of power tools and your square and a couple other things, hammer, etc., and you're literally ready to rock and roll. I mean, you've got what you need to do some fundamental jobs. Now, if you're going to do what we saw on the Titanic there, you're going to need a few other tools involved with that. But nevertheless, to just simply get started, you don't have to spend yourself silly. You spend $500, you're going to have everything you need to get started. And guess what? You go find somebody that wants to teach you and train you, they're going to help you out. I promise you, as long as you show up on time and do what you say you're going to do.
And don't get brand focused, right? When I started my remodeling business, when the housing market crashed and I started doing it full time, I had carpentry tools, of course, but I basically had homeowner grade stuff. Mm-hmm. Something would break, I'd upgrade. I'd buy a Makita or a DeWalt or a Milwaukee or whatever because I was using them every day. Once I got out of it full time 4 years ago or so now as those tools have broken, I've started replacing them with the Ryobi version. Why? Because they're cheaper. I don't use them every day.
Yep.
But you need to get tools and get a small kit like we're talking about, and then your boss, your mentor, your trainer will tell you what you need to buy next. So then the other thing is, we got tools, we got training, we talked about apprenticeships, we got to talk about money.
Absolutely. That's why anybody shows up to work, right?
Right.
It's kind of important. So let's talk about that. So when you're just, let's say you just bought your $500 tool set, right? You just invested a little bit in yourself to go out and, do some work. What can you reasonably expect if you go talk to those 5 foremen, you find yourself a job? What's that look like for somebody right now?
I would think just about anybody will be able to come in at $15 an hour.
Yeah.
With any sense at all. Like, I can read a tape measure. $15 an hour. Now, understand, it only goes up from there.
Oh,
the more you know, the better you're going to be. If Meade was sitting right here, right now, and I told him, hey, dude, I got a guy that you can tell to go lay out those floor joists, put them in place, and you can go, deal with ordering concrete and come back and it'll be done right. That's valuable.
That's worth $30 an hour or more to me right now. To somebody that's going to get the job done right, on, and do what they say they're going to do.
Right.
That's $30 an hour, which is $60,000 a year, and that's no college education, which is that $60,000. If you're in Indiana, that's more than the average college graduate makes their first couple of years out of school, right or wrong.
Right.
In fact, it's more than the average household income in Indiana, so it doesn't suck, period. And that opportunity exists immediately if you want to show up and go to work. You can start around 15, and then it just simply, like you said, goes up from there based on what kind of skill do you want to bring to the table? How much do you want to, how quickly do you want to improve your skill set? What are you willing to do? Are you willing to show up on time? Are you willing to do what you say you're going to do? If you do a couple fundamental basic things, you're an invaluable asset to any company that's doing any type of work, anything we've talked about the last 6 weeks, period.
And at a point, you get to write your own ticket.
That's it.
When you become able to do that, you can build furniture or do trim jobs like the dome we looked at. At that point, when you have that level of expertise, you can charge whatever the
and
market
people
will bear.
call you because guess what? That's not something you can go to Lowe's and buy. You can't
Right.
go to Lowe's and buy that stuff. If somebody wants that, and there is a plethora of people that are doing incredibly well in their lives right now, that are willing to pay somebody to do the job the right way, to give them what they want. And all you have to be is that person who shows up on time, does what they say they're going to do. And then lastly, you've got a skill set that you can just simply apply to helping those people. And here's the beautiful part of this. I started this roofing company, 4 or 5 months ago now. I've spent $500 in marketing, period. And that was just because I wanted to sponsor some racing stuff, just because I like that. That was the
Right.
only marketing money I've spent because, again, show up on time, do what you say you're going to do, and everybody tells their friends because nobody does that.
Right.
Period. Nobody's willing to do that. So all you have to do is do a good job for a couple people, and guess what? You've got a referral stream that's going to start to feed you all day long.
And that's the key, because when you get into that place, and there's so few people in every trade right now that are doing that, which is why, in 5 episodes now at different trades, you and I are the only two that are actually familiar with the trade that have showed up. Everybody else is too damn busy working.
Because they're busy working. Simply put, that's it. They're busy doing their jobs. And we show up because we love doing the show and we want to share this knowledge with people. But the electricians, I mean, the plumber, everybody that we've called is like, dude, I would love to be a part of doing that. That sounds awesome. Can we do it like when it's snowing outside?
Right.
And we're like, no, we're doing it right now. But that's just it. Everybody is as busy as they could possibly want to be.
And that's not going to change.
No.
So you find a trade, you become a specialist in whatever area of it you dig, right? Mm-hmm. Whether it's live green roofs or solar or custom furniture or cabinetry, whatever it is, learn it, practice. I think we're going to have to do an episode, not soon, but at some point, on just all the different tools.
Oh my gosh, I'd love that. It'd be fun.
Maybe we can get Jason.
I love going anywhere and looking at tools. It's like
we can get Jason to get a camera and come to my garage, and we'll just walk around and play with different tools.
I have a lot of cameras I could bring.
Jason has a lot of cameras, so we only have 3 on us today.
No, we got the.
That's
wait,
true.
that one's not on.
We have heavily. Studio J
there's
is
4.
like so upgraded.
And this is 5 right here. So.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
What's this one right here?
I digress.
Which one? Oh,
that's another one. That's camera.
That's
camera
the one
1,
that's
camera 2.
That's that angle right there. In case it doesn't really work because you got the laptops.
Oh yeah.
So what I'll do is I just use my my little preset thing there on the robotic camera and zoom in on the.
See, that's another trade you can get into, is in what Jason's doing right now, which is so awesome. Learning about technical stuff, doing some TV stuff, man.
Jason, give us the overhead shot of the whole studio.
That's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome.
You guys look at all this equipment. It looks like the deck of the Enterprise.
It literally is like a TV studio. It's so cool. There it is.
One notch below.
There it is. There it is.
Hello,
Studio
everyone.
J. Anybody looking to podcast, do anything, you need to contact this gentleman right here because he's awesome.
But hey, you know what? We've been talking about this for like 40 minutes now. I think it's time to let the good people get on with their Friday evening.
I agree with that.
And you get another beverage.
I might get another beverage.
Before we break, we have some questions that came in.
Oh, sweet. How did we not see
you
that?
guys haven't been looking at your laptop, so I'll throw one up here on the screen there.
What do we got here?
Yeah, on the laptop. So question, says Austin Isaac, is the term carpentry the same term for woodworking?
No.
How are they different?
Explain us the difference.
I knew you were going to do that.
I know, because I'm just that guy.
To me, carpentry is a trade. Woodworking is an activity.
So what's the difference?
Well, I mean, there are professional woodworkers, but
like woodworking, I feel is like making your Pinewood derby car in Boy Scouts.
Well, I don't know about that. In my mind, carpentry is like a job and woodworking is like a hobby.
Right.
Now, I could be wrong. I know there are professional woodworkers.
Yeah.
But really, the professional woodworkers I know do carpentry, but on YouTube. So
Right. I don't know if that answers your question, Austin, but we hope it does.
right now, Austin's going, why? What is wrong with those two?
Why did I even type that question in? No, I'm joking.
He's stimulating conversation per my request. That's what he's doing.
Austin's awesome.
Thanks, Austin. And Renee. Renee was tagging some people too. So
Right on. Well, we appreciate everybody's support. And if there is anything you took away from this episode, please like, comment, subscribe, reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you and just anything that we can do to support you. If you have questions about any of the trades we've talked about over the last several weeks, definitely reach out to Greg or I. All of our contact info is in the show notes. Greg, anything else we need to cover today?
It's in the show notes. Crap. No, go out and get that colonoscopy.
Get her done. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a great weekend.
See you later.